Then it really hit me. I'm on the moon. I'm on the moon. And the excitement, the wonder, the thrill, the adventure of it all. And as Buzz Aldrin described it, it was this magnificent desolation. And you kept thinking, nobody's ever been here before.
Charles Duke didn't just visit the moon. He helped humanity get there, and then became one of the few people to walk on its surface. Decades later, when asked a simple question, why did we stop going back? He didn't answer immediately. He paused, and when he finally spoke, his explanation didn't sound like the official one.
No, I don't believe in alien life. I believe that God showed me a specific answer to two prayers, that they're demonic.
The voice behind the first landing. Before Apollo 16, Duke was already part of history. In July 1969, he was inside Mission Control in Houston, acting as the voice between Earth and the astronauts attempting the first lunar landing. The room was silent, not because nothing was happening, but because everything was happening at once. Duke relayed the final descent data as the module dropped lower. The numbers kept falling, 100 feet, then 75, then 50. Then came the signal that changed everything. Contact light. And then the confirmation. The Eagle had landed. Duke didn't raise his voice or get emotional. He kept it light, saying a room full of engineers in Houston had almost stopped breathing waiting for that call. Calm, a little dry, and completely locked in on the job, from Earth to the lunar surface. 3 years later, Duke wasn't in Mission Control. He was on Apollo 16. Alongside John Young, he landed in the Descartes Highlands, an area scientists believed would help explain the moon's geological history. They spent nearly 3 days on the surface, driving the rover, collecting samples, and completing every planned task. By all official accounts, the mission was flawless. Every objective met. Nothing unexpected. But that's only part of the story. The first signs, something was off. If you go back and watch the full mission footage, not the edited clips, but the raw recordings, you notice small, easy-to-miss moments. Duke will be in the middle of something, talking or working, and then he just pauses. Not for long, just enough to feel slightly out of place. Like his attention shifted somewhere else for a second. At one point, Young checks in on him. There's a delay before Duke answers, and when he does, he just says he was looking at something, and then they move on. But the moment lingers. The anomalies. No one explained. Years later, Duke began describing things never included in official reports. He talked about the light first. On the moon, sunlight should be completely consistent, no atmosphere to scatter or alter it. But Duke described seeing subtle shifts, colors that didn't belong, faint blues and purples appearing and disappearing. Then there were the sounds, which shouldn't exist at all. The moon is a vacuum. But Duke described hearing noise without an obvious source. He asked Young about it during the mission. According to Duke, Young heard it too. And then there was time. Their sense of it didn't match the mission clock. Tasks that should have taken longer felt shorter. Other moments stretched out, not dramatically, but consistently enough to notice. None of this was recorded as a problem, because none of it could be measured directly. Why these experiences were ignored? They weren't things you could measure or point to, just experiences. How something looked, how something felt. Easy to explain away, as stress, fatigue, or the mental pressure of being somewhere completely unfamiliar. When something can't be verified, it's hard to treat it as evidence. So, most of it was ignored. But what they came across next wasn't like that. This was something they could actually see. The discovery on the ridge. During one of their drives, Duke and Young moved several kilometers from the landing site, completely on their own. No familiar reference point, just empty terrain stretching in every direction. They were doing routine work when Duke noticed something on the horizon that didn't quite fit. At first, just a shape that looked off. But as they got closer, it became harder to ignore. The moon doesn't naturally form clean patterns. Everything out there is uneven. Craters, scattered rocks, random debris. This wasn't. There were straight edges, angles that lined up, a kind of repetition that didn't belong. Duke pointed it out. Young saw it too. They stopped the rover completely. What they were looking at didn't resemble a natural formation. It looked structured, like part of a wall or foundation, partially buried under dust. Duke later estimated it stretched close to 100 meters, with parts disappearing beneath the surface as if only a small section was visible. The silence from Mission Control. Duke reported it immediately, described exactly what they were seeing, and asked for guidance. But nothing came back. Not even the normal delay between the moon and Earth. Just silence. When Mission Control finally responded, the tone was completely flat. No curiosity, no urgency. They were told to continue with the mission as planned. No follow-up questions. No request to take a closer look. Just move on. The missing photographs. Before leaving, they took photographs. Different angles, close-ups, wider shots, enough to document what they had seen properly. Those images were never released. Over the years, Duke asked about them more than once. The answers never stayed consistent, sometimes classified, other times lost, or the quality wasn't good enough. But Duke has always been clear. He remembers taking them. He remembers exactly what they captured. And to him, it doesn't make sense that something like that would just disappear. The question of age. What made it harder to brush off wasn't just what the structure looked like, but how old it seemed. Even without weather, the moon's surface changes slowly over time. Tiny impacts build up marks across long periods. And the way Duke described it, it looked like it had been there for a very long time, far longer than anything humans have ever put on the moon. Which leads to a simple but uncomfortable question. If it was real, then it didn't belong to us. The pattern among astronauts. Duke isn't the only one who's hinted at things like this. Other astronauts from different missions have mentioned details that don't fit the official picture. On their own, each story is easy to question. But when those observations show up again and again across different people and different missions, it becomes harder to ignore completely. It's not proof, but it's also not nothing. The real reason we stopped. The official explanation for ending Apollo is straightforward. Funding decreased, priorities shifted. Those reasons are valid. But Duke has suggested something else was also happening. After Apollo 17, lunar missions didn't gradually decline. They stopped, despite having the capability to continue. According to Duke, the moon was presenting questions that didn't have clear answers. And instead of pushing further, the decision was made to step back. Today, Duke speaks about these experiences with a calm, measured tone. Whether you agree with his interpretation or not, one thing remains consistent. After reaching the moon, we didn't go back for a long time. And the reason, depending on who you ask, might be more complicated than it seems. So maybe the real question isn't why we couldn't go back. It's why we chose not to.